Hey guys, welcome to another live show, another live She Knows Arsenal. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel. And most importantly, get into the chat and let me know what you guys are thinking and feeling about our 2-0 win over Port Vale in the Carabao Cup. What y'all want me to say? Like, for real. I told you guys before the game started, yesterday, that all of you guys that are like waiting for pure hoops because we're gonna play Ethan and Eze and we're just free. No. I told you guys exactly what the script was gonna be. We were gonna score a goal and then it would just be like tight for the rest of the game. And then we would like, just go through the rest of the game and try to muster a shot. It was really boring. I'm not gonna lie. Like after the goal, basically the entire game, I was like, okay, just make sure you don't do anything silly and concede. And we tried to. Kepa and Mascara, they tried to do something silly and give it away. But, ultimately it's a League One team and we really should be winning that game easily. And I don't think that we didn't struggle. Arsenal did not struggle in that game. We just do not have the capacity to put a game away early or like just batter a team for the sake of it. Like it's always score a goal and sit off. I know the commentators were saying Arsenal scored a goal and then they just kind of sat off for the rest of the game. That is a pattern under Mikel. So I'm not really surprised that it wasn't the pure hoops that people were hoping for. I am really happy that Eze scored his first goal. Obviously, we're expecting him to score more goals in the future. But, listen, I'm going to let y'all talk and I'm going to read these comments because I don't have many thoughts outside of it was boring as fuck. And I'm happy that Eze scored his goal. But I told you guys wasn't going to be no pure hoops. There are no pure hoops under Mikel. Like there just isn't. Like now with Saka, had we maybe scored a couple goals in the first half, we could have taken him off at halftime and he wouldn't have been getting kicked, in the second half when they were trying to put pressure on us. One of the repercussions for Arsenal not ever getting like that second goal quickly is that the game is still in jeopardy and the other team gets the opportunity to kick players when we should be like the second half. Max Dowman should have came in like way earlier. And Saka should have been resting his legs after that first half, but we had only scored one goal. So Arteta was never going to take Saka off. The lineup was exactly pretty much what we put together yesterday. It was the exact back line that we said. It was the exact midfield that we said at the end when I was like, you guys know Marino's going to play, and he did. The only difference was that Eze was in instead of Trossard from the beginning. That was it. So I'm going to let y'all talk because I really don't have very many thoughts on this game. I'm glad it's over. I won't say it was a hard watch, but it was boring. That's it. Kimberly says, tired of this U-shaped footy. Please free us. Morton says, we're back passing sideways FC, boring football. It's so incredibly hard to watch this team. I see the ball going around in a U in my dreams. Jess, I don't know what you thought about his performance, but to me, it looked like Ethan was pulling the strings out there. His potential is so high. Yeah, Ethan always plays good. I would have preferred it to be more of like a vintage Ethan performance where he's taking a lot of shots and he's taking men on. And, he pretty much stuck to the script, keep possession. And, so it wasn't vintage Ethan, but Ethan to me always plays good, so I'm not really surprised that he was so good. I don't think we can blame Arteta for players' decision-making in the final third. I'm watching playing go backwards when we were in a forward motion. Listen, if at this stage and you've seen different variations of this team and we have consistently spoken about the U shape, if you want to blame every single iteration of this team for our lack of like ingenuity, verticality, intensity going forward, fair enough. But, at some stage, it cannot be the players. We've changed the players so many times and we still have the same issues. So I don't know. If you think it's just the players, then fair enough. It's Ethan and Saka and these players now. And I don't know. We were talking about the same shit with like Emil Smith Rowe, and you know how long ago that was. So, yeah. Um, but sure, it's just the players. It's just the players. Arteta gives the instructions. This is on him. They have been coached to retain the ball at all costs. I don't know how the F we're going to survive Newcastle. 11 shots against the League One side is despicable. Do we actually get 11 shots? Like at one point, it was like 2 shots. Well, maybe it was shots on goal because I know that we did not take very many shots. There's just a long period of time where we just weren't really trying to score. We were trying to maintain possession. And then there were some times where players probably should be a little bit better. But yeah, we had 11 shots and 4 on target. We had almost 800 fucking passes. Arteta probably likes this though. All the passes and the possession and the accuracy and the passing, he probably likes this. So he probably didn't care that there was only 4 shots on target. But that's just not the way that we play. We don't play. Our style of play is not about battering the other team or scoring loads of goals or anything. It's just about maintaining the ball and maintaining control. Like that's pretty much all it is. So, and before people start saying, well, we're trying to save our energy for Newcastle, what was using against Manchester City? Were we saving our energy for Port Vale? We do time. I mean, how many years of this do you need to see before you realize that this is the way the manager wants us to play? Sam says Trossard is at his best when he's free to play, like he wishes, especially into the center as opposed to on the far left. Yeah. I know you guys are saying my internet. I'm just going to keep talking until it gets better. Let's see. I almost fell asleep watching the Boar Fest. This game was do as little as possible to get the win. You guys are saying my stream is bugging. There's nothing I can do about it right now. I have the longest day ever. I'm just waiting for the internet to act right. I'm just waiting. I can see that it says no connection, or no, like unstable connection. I don't know, but we're just going to keep going because this is going to be a short one anyway, because there's not that much to talk about, if we're honest. If you can't find sleep, try this game. I'm sure you'd give a testimony. This game was do as little as possible to get the win. Listen, that's cool. You want to do as little as possible, but then I expect us to play like we should be playing against Newcastle. That's the thing about these types of games where there's always a reason for why we can't play intense, attacking, vertical football. There's always a reason. We're trying to conserve energy. We're trying to, we have to play against a deep block, so it's so hard. There's always a reason why we don't play good football. So, if that's the reason for today, cool. But then when we play against Newcastle, I'm sure there'll be an excuse for why we can't play against them. Every day there's a reason why we can't play good football. People in the chat complain that we played boring football, but the most important thing we won today, most important thing is we need a win against Newcastle on Saturday. I just think at a certain point, we just have to accept that under Mikel Arteta, the football is going to be a certain way. It's this, when are we going to get pure hoops? If we play Ethan and Eze together, it's just we played against a League One team today, and we were just kind of going through the motions. So let's see what it's like against Newcastle and see if it just goes up a level naturally, because we're not playing it, in the Carabao Cup. But under Mikel, it's rare that we see games where we play really good football. So yeah. Nico says it's actually painful to watch. Do we know when's the fourth round draw? It's later today. Arteta reminds me of Gareth Southgate, extreme control, risk aversion. That can be fine in small doses, but we hamstring ourselves and miss opportunities to score goals in favor of control. And I think that's a really good point because obviously you can't say this in certain places because people will like literally spit up blood. You will be burned at the stake if you say something like this, but there are a lot of similarities between Gareth Southgate and Mikel. You're right. Extreme aversion to risk, a lot of defense, and that gets you really close. Mind you, like England has gotten to 2 Euros finals and have gotten to like the semifinals of a World Cup, but he could never get them over the line. They had a lot of quality in those team in that team, and they just do not look like a team that has that amount of talent under Southgate. But everybody was okay with it because they were getting further than what they had been getting before. They were, the mood around the place, the culture around the place was so much better than it was back in the day when they were fighting each other and nobody wanted to come into England camp. There are a lot of similarities between Gareth Southgate and Mikel Arteta. There are, so um, there is no such thing as handbrake off with the either two of them. But, people would argue that, like, yeah, but look at where England are now, or, look how competitive they've been, look how competitive Arsenal have been. But that element of risk aversion, and, that's going to mean that there's going to be some um that's gonna hurt your ability to do certain things in the final third. So, you know, there's a trade-off there. Valeria says, "Love the pass that Max played to Gyökeres. We should do that more." That was a really good pass. With, you know, Max, it wasn't his best performance, but he's literally like 5, so yeah. I'm naturally cautious person, so I actually love the Arteta control style of play. Arteta only has plan A. When plan A doesn't work, instead of him to switch to plan B, he'll just put in more players to try to execute plan A. That pass at 15, damn. Rice, Marino, Zubamendi against Newcastle is going to be a long 90 minutes. He barely got the ball. Let's see. If this was meant to be the hand break off ball, then this is concerning. We might need to hire an NFL offensive coordinator. I've been saying for a while that they should invite Arson in to do like a 2-week attacking clinic because this team needs it bad. But I don't think Arteta sees an issue with what we're doing because this is what he wants. You can't have built a side, like take 2022, 2023 out of it for the lot. Like this is the going on to the third season of him doubling down on a style of play. The players have changed from year to year, who's starting, who's doing this, who's doing that. But this way that we play, the way that we approach games is the same. He wants it this way. So, I don't think he cares about handbrake off. I think he definitely has a burner account on Twitter, and he's listening to what people are saying and getting frustrated and then bringing it up in press conferences and looking dumb doing it, by the way. But like, I don't think he cares about what we look like when we play, as long as we don't lose and we win more games than we lose. Like, I just think that that's all that really matters to him. We made a relegation League One side look like a mid-table Prem side so poor. Arteta's blood pressure must have gone up so much when Eze tried to dribble a few players and lost the ball around the middle of the pitch. I don't know. I don't know. Like, players like Eze, players like Ethan, when they're in flow, are going to have moments where they lose the ball. So, you know, that's what you get when you have creative players on the pitch. Even as a fan base, I feel like we've become at risk adverse in our own selves, like where if anybody gives away the ball, it's like a national emergency. It's crazy. Kimberly says, and Arteta just had to go and get a former defender to be his assistant manager. Fairs. Blaze says, Jess, do you think the game against Newcastle is the biggest game for Arteta this season? If we lose or draw on Saturday, there will be a big gap between us and Liverpool. I don't know, Blaze, because I mean, what's going to be the repercussions of him going 8 points behind Liverpool in September? Like, what are the true repercussions of it? I get what you're saying. Like, it's technically a big game, but like nothing is gonna happen. It's just gonna be it's early on in the season. We just need to get Kai Havertz back. We just need to get whoever the fuck back and it'll be fine. So, yes and no. I feel like there's already an undercurrent of like, we're not gonna win the league. Just simply not even based on numbers, but looking at Liverpool and looking at us, there's clearly the difference between the two teams. We're not both playing in the same way. Um, right? So I don't know. It is a big game, but if you're in a situation in September where you're having do or die games like already, I feel like the writing is already kind of on the wall. Do you get what I'm saying? Like any manager that's in do or die mode in September, or, you know, you get what I'm saying? Like where they're being judged on the holistic of their career at their club versus just like a little bit of form or whatever, it's over like already. We should not be in do or die mode in September. There should always be the feeling that we still have everything to play for in September. If it's feels like it would be over this weekend, it was done before it even really started, if that makes sense. Pretty similar to like Amarin, you know, he was in do or die mode from minute one. You know, people were hate watching our preseason games, and Arsenal fans were like pissed off about what was happening in preseason. When you are like looking at preseason and freaking out about that, and you can't just hand wave it as like it's preseason and we'll get better as it goes, the writing is already there. I don't know what to tell you. Um, have people forgotten that we used to lose games by 5 goals back to back? The cautious style is keeping us from embarrassment. I mean, I don't if the only thing that we're trying to do is stop ourselves from being embarrassed, that's fine, but is that what Arsenal are supposed to be doing? Like, just not being embarrassed? Is as long as we're not embarrassed, are you happy with what we're doing? Like, there's just, like, a very big elephant in the room here that, yeah, we're not getting embarrassed anymore, but that was never the point. The point for Arteta to come in was not to be embarrassed. So um I kind of get what you're saying, but at the same time it's just like we're so beyond this like, oh my gosh, but remember when we used to get slapped 5-0 by City and Liverpool every year? Like we're so beyond that now. So, but I feel like this is definitely like a good example of like why the fan base is the way that they are, because some people are still so traumatized by that time that they're just happy not to be getting slapped. Um, and that's the bare minimum requirement for Mikel Arteta for them. I don't mind the style if the result follows. The issue is the result doesn't always follow. I think if we don't win versus Newcastle, our fan base will have a meltdown and it can be influence our players. It's going to be sad hearing the season is over in September. If any game in September would mean that your season is over, if the result doesn't go your way, it's already over. Like I need people to understand that we should not be in do or die mode in September. It's just nobody else is in do or die mode. Manchester City is not in do or die mode. Liverpool are not in do or die mode. It's just us and United in do or die mode right now. I think that says it all, really. But Newcastle is what it is. Like it's a tough ground that we don't really do well at all under Mikel, to be honest. Ever since they got the takeover, we've really struggled to beat this team. They just seem to have the ability to just beat us, and I can't say that I feel infinitely more confident that that result is going to change, this weekend. So we'll see. Akinola says, if we play like this in the Premier League, we can kiss the trophy goodbye already. I think some of our fans have started the season on edge, and everything about Mikel is constant moan, win, lose, or draw. I mean, why? I understand that, but there's always like an emphasis on like shifting it over to the fans. And it's like, well, the fans are doing this, the fans are doing that. Why are the fans on edge? I think that question alone and the answer to that question solely puts the responsibility back on the people that need to make like to do what they need to do to get the fans off of edge. Like this whole like, yeah, but they're on edge. It's like, of course they're on edge. We've gone 5 seasons without winning anything. The whole narrative around this season, and really it was last season and he was given a pass. This season it's you have to win a big trophy. So of course the fans are on edge. Of course the fans are on edge, and quite frankly, the way that we played so far this season has not alleviated any of those concerns. So I get it that it's like, "Oh, okay, well, you know," and for people that are like, "This fan base is so dramatic, this fan base is so hyperbolic." This fan base allowed Arsene Wenger to stay probably 5 or 6 seasons longer than he should have. Let's keep it a buck. Like, no other elite team would have been so okay with Arsene staying for so long, but this fan base is accepting and very, very like, as long as things are a certain way, they're pretty calm. We went through a period of time under Arsene where it was very clear that we were slipping away from the top table, and it was just going to continue. It took until we actually fell out of the top 4 for it to matter to people, because a top 4 and a FA Cup was always good enough for this fan base for a long time. Any elite side, the fan base would already be that manager out in totality if their manager was Mikel Arteta, because he hasn't won a big trophy ever. Not a Barcelona, not a Real Madrid, not a PSG, not a any of those teams would have ever let Arteta stay this long. So this whole idea that the fan base just moans all the time and they're so negative and hyperbolic, you don't know negative and hyperbolic and dramatic, because we don't like, our fan base is nowhere near the types of fan bases that would have gotten Arsene out 5 years before when he should have been out, and Arteta like 2 years ago. So no, our fan base is very accepting, very like, as long as you're in the top 4 and you're getting a trophy here and there, I'm pretty okay with that. They're pretty chill. It's just people don't want to hear people not being happy with some of the stuff that's happening. And so anytime somebody says anything, it's hyperbolic and dramatic. But try being a Real Madrid fan for a day. They're all, like, they wanted Ancelotti out. If we had had Ancelotti, no Arsenal fan would ever want Ancelotti out, because he's Ancelotti. Like, I'm so sorry. The only time that we ever were so hyperbolic and so reactionary to the detriment of a manager was Unai Emery. Every other manager that we've had in my lifetime has gotten carte blanche to stay a long time, regardless if they were good or not, regardless to if they were winning or not. So you guys can cut the, this fan base is, this fan base is, this fan base is. You don't know what a hyperbolic fan base looks like, because we are not one. We are very much so built around the idea that we don't want too much going on. We want a manager for a long period of time. This fan base is very accepting. This fan base is very low, like, pressure. Like, come on. We need to be so for real right now. Like, you guys just don't like to hear people being dissatisfied or unsatisfied with what's going on. And it's a small percentage of Arsenal fans that are actually vocal about that. Small percentage. Small percentage. The majority of this fan base is very much so happy with what Mikel Arteta is doing. So this whole narrative about fans, the fans are doing this to us, the fans are making us bad, the fans are doing the AFTV, la 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 la. Give it a break. Seriously. Carlos is saying we're getting Brighton at home. That's a tough game. We don't particularly play that well against Brighton, so we'll see how that goes. John says, I think that was last season. This season, 85, 90% of the fans want Arteta to walk if he hasn't won anything. This is not true. This is not true. Go and look at the quiz, or like it's not a quiz, it is a poll that The Athletic does at the beginning of every single season. He is still very much so, outside of the online people, because the online fan base is very small in comparison to the greater fan base. Go look at that poll. The majority of Arsenal fans that they polled are happy. they're not pressuring Mikel. They don't feel like he has to win. Like, it's very like, he is very much so happy, like, or people are very much so happy and okay with him staying. It is not 85, 90%. It is just the online percentage of the fans feel that way. But people that go to the stadium, they don't want him out. They don't want him out. They'll say he needs to win something, but they're not gonna sack him. Like, they don't want him sacked. Like, be serious. Like, come on. Like, come on. Like, they don't. They're always like, it's like the people that go to the games, they hate the online fans because we don't represent them. So, like, people are okay with it. Nothing but facts. We accept the bare minimum. If Arteta doesn't win anything, we will have him another season because majority is okay with this. It's clear we are stagnating under this manager. We got the second goal and didn't bother to go for more. We were actively passing sideways and backwards to not concede. So frustrating. Fans are on edge because our collapse after 22-23 season, and also the lack of winning trophies, because when we started competing to win the league title, the majority of fans, if you ask them if they would sack if we don't win, they'd ask for context. After 5, 6 years, that's all the context that you need. It's just, I feel like because we're online, we think that we're the majority. We are the minority. The majority of fans, Arsenal fans, there's a lot of them that are not on X and on YouTube, you know, not a part of that group. They're okay with it. Like, they're chill because Mikel brought us from obscurity. So, and we're so used to having a manager for so long. Like, it literally had to be a non-Arsenal man that, you know, had us like in 13th, 14th, 15th in December. That was the only person that this fan base has ever actively gotten out of a job, and quick, fast, and in a hurry. Like, if Mikel had us in 13th, 14th, 15th in December. Actually, I think at one point he did. We didn't try to get him out. Like, we didn't. During that period of time where he didn't win any games at all in his first full season, nobody tried to get him out. Like, AR says, why sack him now when the season just started? I'm not saying sack him now. Nobody's saying sack him now. I'm just saying that, like, majority of this whole idea that the fans are being hyperbolic and, you know, they're so negative and dramatic. You don't know what a negative, dramatic, and hyperbolic fan base is. This is one of the most accepting fan bases of a big team, because there's very few fan bases that would be in this situation with Mikel. Very few. Very, very few. Like, very few. Arsenal was never in obscurity. Online people are always the most radical element of any movement. If Spurs winning Europa didn't change the mindset, nothing will. Forget about it. We ain't going anywhere, unfortunately. It's clear we will never ever play proper football with Arteta at the helm with a squad like this. I can't believe the football I'm seeing. Arteta should be in football prison. Well, I feel like having Arteta as the manager means that we're going to play football in a certain way. And, you know, in 23-24, like after the first time that we challenged, I was concerned after the first half of that season, because I would have just never thought that we would bring in Kai Havertz to play Xhaka's position, right? And then the second half of that season, I was like, that's the best we've ever played under Mikel. And so we were very defensively solid, but we scored lots of goals. So it was kind of like, cool, like, I'm good with that. We have gone kind of away from that since then. The goals are not really there like they were in that, you know, that back part of that season. And it's just like, at a certain point, you just realize that this is how the manager is. But does it feel great? No, you know, because there's just games where you just don't know if we're going to score or not. And I just don't feel like we should feel that way. But I didn't really feel like that in 23-24. But last season and at the beginning of the season, I have to be honest, like, I sometimes feel like, are we going to score, or, you know, no. Clifford says we got Brighton. So for those of you guys who are just joining, we got Brighton. And, you know, that's not a bad draw. at all, like, considering, like, Clifford is saying that Spurs got Newcastle, like, if we had got that draw, that woulda just mm. But Brighton are not h we struggle with Brighton, so it should be a win, but, it's just one of those games where we're gonna have to play a stronger 11 and get it done, it's just that simple. Um, I think fans who are happy with Arteta are young fans who haven't seen us win the league. They probably think that this is the best we have seen. It's twofold, it's the younger fans and then it's the older fans that are like, they knew about Arsenal before, like, George Graham and stuff, so they're like, "You're not, uh, like, you're not guaranteed anything. You don't just like, you don't have a God-given right to win anything." So, they're just kind of, like, happy with whatever era we're in. It's not just young fans, there are older fans like this as well, but, I think if you have the opportunity to have the in-game experience, I do think that you think of things a lot differently. I've said this multiple times, but when I lived in London and I could go to games, I felt much differently about the games than I did when I was just watching them at home. Because when I went to the game, I had all the other stuff and then the result in the performance. So, if the result wasn't what I wanted, I still had like the game day experience. I got to see the players, I got to be around people, da 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 da. And I was going to those games by myself, not knowing anyone either. But people were going there with their families, with their best friends, they were spending time with each other, going out, getting drinks before, getting drinks after, going to the Tollington, going to the pubs, blah, blah, blah. If you have the opportunity to have that experience, I do feel like you would feel differently because at the end of the day, you don't just have the result. But for us that are watching online, we just have the result to go off of. The game day experience is the result, essentially, the performance and the result. So, I do think that it's more less about young and old, and it's more about, the online fans don't have anything but the results to hold on to, where people that have a different outlook because maybe they can go to games or whatever, they have a different outlook. If you talk to people that go to games, they'll bitch and moan about stuff, but for the most part, like, they like going to games because that's like their religion. Like, that is their community. Like, that's what they love to do. And, so like, they're less attached to the result than we are. Who is the assassin? Who is the assassin, this squad? What does that mean? What is the assassin? It was a dull affair, but it was a professional 2-0 performance. Didn't get out of first gear. Yeah, it was professional 2-0 performance. It depends on how you frame it. I feel like you can call it a professional 2-0 performance, or it was a really boring game and you expected more. I told you guys yesterday you shouldn't be expecting this hoop session because you're not going to get it under Mikel. We don't do hoop sessions. We score a goal and then we just try to keep possession for the rest of the game. That's just how we do things. Now, suffering these really boring performances, games, should mean that on the weekend we're ready to do business. And so, like, these are whatever, who really cares? Like, these are early Port Vale, who cares? Um, but if we go to Newcastle and we just, do nothing, then it's gonna be like, well, what the fuck? So Newcastle does have something on it. Newcastle does have some jeopardy on it. So let's see how that goes. I don't know what's going on this season. I'll be really honest. I'm very much so like watch and see. Let's see. If the majority of fans wanted him out, including match going fans, he'd be out. I fear the women's games are getting such fans, those who just want a day out. Saliba probably touched the ball more than all of the attackers combined. Just watching technical players link up for Eze goal with MLS was beautiful and frustrating at the same time because look at what they're capable of. Arteta doesn't want it though. Yeah, that was just like felt like something that was just like off the cuff from those players. And those are very good, like, high IQ technical players, and so that was really fun to watch. I would have loved to see more of it, but it's just not it's more of like a, "Ooh, if it happens," it's like, "Oh, wow, we actually did something aesthetically pleasing," but that's not really how we play on a regular basis, so, yeah. Um, Saliba probably touched the ball more than all of our attackers combined. Um, exactly, that was an energy saving performance, and as long as the energy saving performance means that we go to Newcastle and we actually show ourselves and actually play football. Like, I don't know why I keep asking them to play football because I know they're playing football, but just play. Like, it just feels like there's just it's so like, I just want you guys to play. Like, play, show yourselves, create chances, dribble, have personality, I guess, So obviously the result is the most important thing and we want to go to Newcastle and get the win. But it would be nice to have a game where we look at it and we're like, wow, we actually played well and won. We actually had a great performance and won. I'm trying to think that probably the last time I felt good performance and won was like in a bigger game. Nottingham Forest wasn't really that big of a game and Leeds wasn't either, but maybe Real Madrid last season, where I was like, that was a really good performance and we won. Very labored performance. How does the majority want Arteta to stay because they aren't online? Maybe there's a huge chunk of fans who aren't just as vocal, but support the online fans. I mean, if you don't know, then how can you say that 85 to 90% of the fans want him out? Because you're basically talking about a group of fans that you don't know whether or not they're supporting the online fans or not. But ultimately, if you really want the manager out, I feel like you would say something. Like, I feel like at some stage it would be obvious. Like, so if you can't see that group of people and you don't know who this chunk of fans are and whether or not they're supporting the online fans or not, how can you say 85 to 90% of the fans want him out? 85% of Arsenal fans do not want Arteta out. I really like if they did, you would know because we got Unai out. You know what it looks like when Arsenal fans want someone out. When they wanted Arsene Wenger out, it was obvious. When they wanted Unai Emery out, it was obvious. So, does it feel like anybody wants Arteta out really outside of the art like the online people? Like, come on. Like the majority of Arsenal fans do not want Mikel out because if they did, we would know. The fact that Arteta subbed, off Marino before Eze, I know for a fact he's gonna be the same midfield as City. Absolutely. Man of the match, um, Saliba? I don't know. Who played well? Like, nobody played bad, but, like, was anybody outstanding? Not really. Saliba? Ethan? I don't know. I'm a season ticket holder. Majority of that stadium are firmly behind the manager. That's what I'm saying. If they really wanted Arteta out, if this fan base wanted him out, they would it would be so obvious. It would be so obvious. They don't. It is very like it's calm waters for Mikel. The media is talking and the online people are talking, but like, come on. Jaika says this season feels like not more than 2 goals kind of games. Yeah, I mean, when Trossard scored, I was kinda like, "Oh, wow." Like, we scored a second goal because we really were kind of like, "Whatever." So, I don't know. This season is weird because there's no doubt that we've brought in attacking talent. We've brought in Gyökeres, we brought in Eze, obviously Madueke is injured, but Madueke, we have Saka, we have Martinelli, we have Trossard. We have attacking talent there. We have Ethan. So either we overrate these players or we're just not the type of team that, is gonna score like loads of goals at at will, if that makes sense. Um, It's like we look passive on the pitch, side passes and 3 passes back. Somebody that was slowing down the play a lot was Marino. Marino, almost every single time that he got the ball, turned around and passed it backwards. And, I've kind of been saying this for a while, but I know that it's not the narrative that people want, but it does feel like there is instruction for certain people to slow the game down. That's how it feels to me, so um I don't know. Moreno, every single time he got the ball, slowed the play down. If we were, going fast, he would get it and take a couple more touches, turn around, and then do sideways. It has to be by instruction. If it wasn't by instruction, we would not be doing it for 3 seasons. If it was not by instruction, it would just go with one player. Like if it was just Odegaard who did it, then you wouldn't see Marino doing it because it was just Odegaard. Like it's by instruction. Like he wants the game to be slower. If he didn't, we wouldn't play this way. So Marino definitely was slowing the game down, but I guess that's what Arteta wants. Do players have to break out of Arteta's pattern to score us goals? Then Arteta feels like, yeah, I did that. I don't know. If Arteta thinks like, yeah, I did that. I don't know. I just think that like when he makes subs and it works, I do think that he goes like, and that's exactly how I planned it. Like I feel like he takes credit for that, which you got to give him credit for it, So I don't know, but if we had a manager that just allowed players to play their kind of like their way and give them creative freedom, they wouldn't take credit for it, but they kind of facilitated that environment for them to do it. So I don't think you can necessarily like take it away from Mikel, but it happens so little that you have to imagine that it's because that's not the way that we actually want to play. Jerome says Marino is about control, not progression, like Ethan, Eze, and Max. I think the only thing about that is like I can accept that, like that's okay, but don't expect to score many goals like that because most teams want to sit in a deep block against us. So if you have a player that consistently gets the ball, because Marino touches the ball a lot, when Odegaard's not there, Marino starts to touch the ball more than anyone else. And so if that person is getting the ball, don't expect to score lots of goals because once you let people settle in their block, it becomes infinitely more hard for our Arsenal to score a goal. So if that's by design and you guys are all like, okay with that, that's cool. But just know that we're not going to score lots of goals that way. Because once this block is settled, which Marino allows the block to get settled, and then we start to go again, it's basically makes it 10 times harder for us to score a goal because we don't do well against the block. So yeah. Newcastle has Marino, Rice, Subi written all over it. I'm tired of Marino. Marino's playing a lot of games. Exactly. What is the point of false nine to drop to take the ball from the center backs and then just pass it back? Marino takes ages to turn. I don't think it was an instruction thing. He just finds it difficult to turn because he is so slow. I agree, though, that Arteta's tactics are not it. Arteta is shifting our players. I don't mind the control element, but why does it have to be so slow? You don't have to lose control to play one touch at times. Well, I do think that, I think that what he thinks is the slower you play, the less likely you are to give the ball away. If you're doing like quick one-touch passes, maybe it is easier to lose control than when you take a touch, look, then pass, So I think that's the element of why things are so slow, so that we can control the game and we don't give the ball away as much. I personally, this is just the way that we play now. I don't even know if it's even worth sitting here and trying to understand it anymore because this is our 3rd season going on playing this style. We are one of the slowest attacking teams in the league, if not the slowest. Whenever the little chart comes up on the TL, we are down towards the bottom. This is something that is by design. So, and I can only imagine that the slow buildup gives us an element of control and limits mistakes. Um, and yes, when you play quicker, maybe there's an element of the quicker you play, the less accurate you are at times. Quick, 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 less accurate you are. And so you're more likely to make a mistake. And Arteta wants to limit that as much as possible. I don't know. I just know that this is how we play. You don't go on 3 seasons and play this way with, because when Arteta wanted to change something, it happened instantly like that. If Arteta wants things to change, they change like that. Like he didn't want to play like we did in the 22-23 season anymore. So he spent 165 million on new midfielders, and we started playing slow football instantly in the next season. So clearly this is the way that he wants to do things. This is all because Arteta is Pep's little bro. He can only play how Pep taught him sadly. Arturo says, what is the point to play corner kick, pass back to center backs and lose it? I don't know what's going on with our corners, but the short corners never work for us really. Or if they do work, it's few and far between. So I don't know what's the point of just passing it around and keeping possession, but it's probably the element of not wanting to lose it and then get caught on the break. Let's see. Hey, Jess, when Rice plus Arteta said we dominated City, I didn't agree. We dominated possession, but that alone isn't enough to dominate. A match team have to use the ball well. Creating chances. I don't know. I don't know. To be honest, like I didn't agree, but in their mind, they dominated City. So I think if they think that they dominated City, then it's probably because possession for them equals dominance, which is probably why we seek to have lots of possession. So that's the only way I can think about things. Sam, what are your thoughts on your community? Jess, we moan and argue a lot. My thoughts on my community is that my community needs a trophy. Like the thing is Sam, to be honest, like I'm not gonna I guess your community does like mirror like-minded people are gonna go together. And so maybe the way that we think, we all kind of think similarly that there's a frustration about the way that we play and a cynicism around our ability to win trophies. That just is what it is. That mirrors how I feel. Um, I don't really feel like it's my job. I don't think my community necessarily wants this either because you guys have been around for like 5 years now, but I don't think people want me to build my narrative around something that I don't believe. And a lot of people do that. A lot of people in this world build a narrative based on something and just go with it no matter what. And I'm not built like that. So, I am like an open door policy. If this is not what you want, if you want a community that is always kind of positive, no matter what's happening, even if we're in our 5th season without winning a trophy, um, even if we're not creating chances and you just want positivity and you just want to hear that it's all going to be okay, this community is probably not the best for you. Also, if you only want to hear negative, even when we win things and and we like whatever, like let's say, when we beat Manchester United away from home, I was positive about that. You can go back to the instant reaction. I said, it's the first game of the season. We haven't really even settled in, and we just needed to win that game. We could not afford to lose the first game of the season. And so, it's not like I'm only negative for the sake of negativity because I had a really good opportunity. If I really wanted to, I could have went in on that day and I didn't. So, I just feel like you need to go where you can hear what you want to hear, but I don't build my narrative around a certain persona. My persona is not negative, my persona is not positive, but to me personally, we're not in the greatest of periods. So my outlook is gonna be probably a little bit more pessimistic than some people would like. So you have all of the opportunity. There are plenty of channels out there that are very much so, no matter what's going on, positive, no matter what, so but I'm not going to change how I feel genuinely because it's insincere. It's insincere. You can always see who's being insincere because when things are going really badly, they really cannot muster the honesty to just say, "Oof, that wasn't good enough." They have to lie or blame it on somebody else or whatever, and to me, that's not how I roll, so you can do whatever you want, but we moan because honestly, the football is not fun to watch. We've dropped points in multiple games already in ways where the performance was very unsatisfying. Um, you know, we can't say we're unbeaten. We don't have our top 6 record anymore. You know what I mean? Like, there's not really, like, a lot to be like, "Yes, it just looks like we're gonna win." So, I don't know. But, I always say this, and I'll keep saying it, is the narrative, especially for me, changes instantly if Arteta does one thing, and that's win a trophy. He could win a FA Cup for me, and I would feel good. Like, so, the Arteta sexuals moan way more, constant moaning about injuries, refs at a time. Team doctor needs to be investigated or fired because what are these injuries? We wouldn't be complaining if we were winning trophies, playing boring. This is what I'm saying. It's like, yeah, but all we do is moan. It's like, yeah, well, Arsenal fans are probably the most reactionary in terms of like, if we're playing well, instantly we're going to win everything. And so if we just start winning games and playing well, people will stop moaning. Like it's just that simple. People are tired of not winning. People are tired of playing bad football. It's just that simple. We are a reflection of the club. I don't understand all the injuries our squad gets. Also, Saka was like limping again today. Like that was like, oh, you don't want him coming back getting injured already, especially with no Nani. So we need to be really careful with Saka. But he gets kicked more than anyone. So who knows? My only complaint is I'd like to be entertained. I like watching pro footballers do things I couldn't. Great shot skills, intricate passing. Well, I think if you asked Mikel, why are we not entertaining? He would probably say, I'm not here to entertain. Like, I don't actually think he's concerned about playing a style of football that entertains the fans. Because if he was, then he would change the way that we do things. So maybe it's entertaining to him, but, you know, I don't think he cares about being entertained. I would love to be. I think that's why a lot of people were excited about Eze coming in, but early indications would say that we're probably still going to see the status quo, about the way that we do things. And I've always said that I feel like the players that we have can actually do more than what they do now, but the way that we play is based around the manager wanting to keep possession and control. So it's not really about entertainment. Arteta is still trying to prove his concept works even in lower tournaments. There's no more progress other than trophies at this point. We play against nothing but deep blocks, so if he's instructing a way around or through that, then we're cooked. Arteta always treats City like we'd collect our Prem trophy after playing them, even when they are shit. What was that nonsense he was speaking about when he said the CEO called him and was impressed? Guys, I don't know what Arteta was saying in that press conference. I saw one little clip and I said, I'm not the target audience for this. Uh, I like, I, I kind of understand why everything is turned into a positive, but I'm kind of like the type of person, and I was also the type of player that did much better when I was told the truth and there was brutal honesty about what I was doing wrong or right or whatever. And so I don't know what Arteta's saying behind the scenes, but I don't know if I feel like he's somebody that says one thing in a press conference and then says something different. I do think that there's an element of trying to make things into a positive, trying to spin things into a positive all the time. Like, he was trying to say that people were saying that we were better than PSG in that tie. And now all of a sudden, like CEOs were calling about City or something. Like, I don't know. But I just prefer like sometimes just be like, that wasn't our best game. It wasn't good enough. Like, you know, I don't know. 'Cause I didn't feel like I watched a game where we were totally dominant against Manchester City and we made them do something that they never do. I felt very deflated and it felt like a loss, I'll be honest. It did. That draw felt like a loss still. It just did. I think if Arteta was Bournemouth manager, they'd be fun to watch. I just think the bright lights of Arsenal Football Club and expectations turn him into this pragmatic guy. I personally fell in love with Arsenal because of the style of play. Don't know what I'm watching anymore. I mean, my friend Gabby is like, I hope she's okay with me saying this, but she always calls herself a child of anger and she's really struggling. So I don't think you're alone there at all. Thing is just, oh, I read that one. Arteta's a top waffler. I stopped watching his press conferences 2 seasons ago. Arteta crazy dope dropping these lines. He literally said before the game when someone asked him about the game, he said, maybe I might not release the break or something like that. He's listening to what we're saying about taking the handbrake off or, that kind of stuff. He's very aware of what people are saying, which I do think is kind of like I don't some people like it. I'm not a big fan of addressing social media narratives or media narratives outside of the ones that are like you need to talk about. He brought it up like kind of unnecessarily about the handbrake and it just feels like he's rattled about people saying that we play shit football and we look like we're trying to like white knuckle possession. Um, he definitely has a burner account, like Sampa is saying, and he did say it unprompted, like Ash is saying, like it was unprovoked. Nobody was really asking him about it. And I'm like, maybe some people like that. I know some Arsenal fans like it because they're like, oh, he handles the media really well, and that's fine. But for me, like, I don't know. But I also feel like brutal honesty between you guys and me. I'm just trying to see how the season is gonna pan out. I'm really like the Arteta stuff. I've done my time. I did the multiple seasons of crashing out about style of play, looking like we're white knuckling possession, not creating enough chances, uh, not playing to player strengths, holding players back. This is not like a new thing. So, being in the third season of speaking about these things, it's a little bit like, well, we're just doing the same things that we are doing before. So I'm finding it difficult to get up the energy for it. So I'm kind of just like, let's just see where we go from here. When a new problem arises, I would love to talk about that. But we're talking about the same things that we've been talking about. This is not new. So, against Port Vale, there will always be the element of we just needed to win the game. We're trying to conserve energy. And I'm okay with that. It's whatever. We just needed to beat Port Vale and not become, we just needed to not make them into Grimsby Town. That's it. But when we play against Newcastle, if we go there and stink the place out, um, we'll be talking about the same things. It won't be about defense. It won't be about, our solidity. It won't be about any of those things. It'll be about the referees not giving us something, them beating us up, and us not being able to connect a pass because we can't deal with high presses, not being able to break down whatever stubborn defense they have, and struggling to create chances because that is always the issue. And it's been the issue for multiple seasons now. You can tell he doesn't take feedback well, but the criticism is because we want to do better. Forget the disingenuous pundits. Arteta press conferences over the years, 2019 to 2020, classy, 2023, 2025, straight up Delulu. He's turning into Ten Hag in the press. Oh my gosh. I just think that a job like this will change you. It's a stressful job. Like Arsenal is not an easy job because we're 21 years on of not, or 22 or something like that, 20, 21, and of not winning the Premier League. And instantly when your butt hits the seats, it's like you need to win a Champions League and a Premier League now, so it's not easy. And I think, he feels like he's done a great job, and to a certain extent he really has. Like, he's reinvigorated the club and rebuilt it and all that kind of stuff, but he has to know that at some point people are going to be like, okay, so where are the big trophies, bro? So, and I think this job, just like any job that's, a big job where you're underperforming, is going to be stressful. So I'm not, you know of course he's going to change. But I just don't listen, because every time somebody brings some sort of like quote and he's talking about the game, and that's not the game that we watched, it just feels like, all right, bro. I've never seen us win the league. This trophy drought runs hand in hand with my age. Oh, I'm sorry. Um, yeah, that's unfortunate. Um, I really hope that at some stage you see Arsenal win the league. I do. I'm old enough to have seen it once. Um, I just got lucky. I just got lucky that I just happened to be looking. And my mom, well, I started wanting to watch Premier League, and my mom found Arsenal, and we picked Arsenal together based on the team. Totally lucky there, and I was old enough to like know what I was looking at. But if you haven't watched Arsenal win, I'm sorry. Hopefully you will. With the team we have now, I shouldn't feel scared facing another team in any competition, but I am, because of how cowardly the manager is. If I say I wasn't totally confident today, listen, I just I don't know. It's just something about this team that I don't trust. I'm traumatized by certain things. So, yeah. I was like, "Oh, what if it's a Grimsby town?" It didn't end up being that, and it wasn't anywhere near it, but I was like, "If they nick it here, like, I don't wanna go into extra time and all that." It was just it's just so weird right now as an Arsenal fan, because we're so good, but there's always an element of like, "Are we sure? Like, are you sure we're gonna win?" Or at least for me, that's how it is. What position did you play? I was like a DM for a long time, and then I played right back as well. He's definitely rattled. Yeah, literally saw the best one. I got so lucky. I got so lucky that I saw, and I knew what I was looking at because I was old enough to look at it. But if you would have told me then that that would be the last time that I'd see the team win a league title, I would have been like, "You're like, what are you smoking? There's no way that this is the last time that I'm gonna see it." Yeah. It's crazy. If I feel like this is why, sidebar. Of course, Arteta needs to win a Champions League or a Premier League for a lot of people, and winning a Carabao or a FA Cup is not gonna change the narrative around whether or not he's the guy. But if he were to win anything this season, I would clutch onto that for dear life, because you just never know. If these 20 something years have taught us anything, is that you just never know if your team is ever going to win a game, win another trophy. You just never know. Um, and I just want to see this particular team lift a trophy that's not called the Community Shield. The fact that the FA Cup was lifted by a completely different set of players makes me like, that wasn't, you can't even, that was Arteta's thing, but that's not even this team's thing. So whenever we win something, if we win something under this manager, I'm going to live that moment for a while, because you just never know. You know, if we win, that's why I really wanted the Carabao Cup last season, because I was like, we got to a semifinal and we should have been winning that. We should have been beating Newcastle at home. We got lucky. We got Newcastle at our spot and tore our draws in front of everybody. If we would have just beat them and, at home, and then been able to be stout, away from at their place, we go to the final. We go to the final. We have an opportunity to go to Wembley and make it happen. I just, you know, I'll take anything. I'll take a League Cup or a FA Cup, but I still want him gone. I became a fan because of my brother. My football consciousness was 2007, 2008. I've just been traumatized year in and year out, especially since most of my friends were United fans growing up. That's pretty dark. There's nothing worse than having people in your life that are United fans and you were an Arsenal fan between 2008 and 2012. Genuinely. I'm sure that they said 8-2 to you a million times. Stark. Even with Dembele and this team, we won't win like this. I picked Arsenal during the rivalry between Henry and Van Nistelrooy. I love that. Fun times, like fun times. Literally, I think about the Van Nistelrooy missed penalty all the time. It is a core memory for me. I loved that. The fact that almost every single United game that we played during that era was just a fight. It was just a fight for blood. There was no football played. It was a melee every single time we played. It was usually like a 0-0 or a 1-1 or a one-goal game. It felt different. I loved it. I lived for it. You know, it was great. So yeah, Wenger and Arsenal was the representation of Joga Bonito in England at that time. The choice was easy for me. With this squad, I expect from Arteta to win the league title with our current squad. Mom's thoughts on Mikel, is she still supporting him? She would hate. I don't think she's gonna watch this, but she's an Arteta sexual. Mom, if you're watching, I'm just joking, but you are. You love Mikel, seriously. Before we were subjected to this punditry, Martin Keown was my guy. That A2 was bad, but the worst was the Champions League semis. I was at a sleepover with my United fans. I cried that day. That's terrible. That's honestly really bad. How did you survive? Like, that's crazy. Like, dark. It's dark. But yeah, my mom, she loves Mikel. So um she knows how I feel about him though. I try to temper it down when I'm around her, but like in real life, she knows I'm like this guy. Like, like I don't know. Like I love Mikel too in a different way. Like I don't dislike him to the stage of like no matter what he does, I will want him gone. I know there's some people that even if he won the league, they would have a reason why they want him out because that's their narrative. They don't like him, so they want him out. I would want nothing more than Mikel Arteta to win something. Nothing more. Even if that meant all the positive people came at me and were like, "You need to apologize. You need to stand in the middle of the Emirates and apologize to Mikel Arteta." Okay, cool. Because my like thing in life is not to be against Mikel Arteta. I just want Arsenal to win. If he gets Arsenal to win, I don't care. Like, you know what I mean? I would love for Arteta to win. Um, but I'm just honest about the fact that I'm not 100% sure that he will. But there was a period of time where I genuinely felt like he could do it. But I'm starting to lose faith because, I kind of go by what's actually happening and not based on my narrative, you know? I cried when Van Persie went to Man U of all the teams in one. I really hate that guy. He was my favorite player. When you do that as well, like I know that like maybe the club didn't feel like they had a choice and all that kind of stuff, but when things like that happen, it shifts the narrative around your club and instantly knocks you down a peg. Selling one of your best players to a rival, a direct rival, and them going on and winning everything with them, not good. Not good at all. I just think that hopefully the club understands moving forward that there is no world where we're selling our best players to anybody that's a direct rival. It's just from a narrative perspective, from a optic standpoint, it is so bad for the brand. It is so bad for the brand. And we did it a couple of times and it was just like, when are we gonna learn? But that was the worst one, like by far. Um, Arteta haters would love if Arteta wins something. The Arteta sexuals don't want anyone but Arteta to win anything. Yeah. I mean, I think both like groups are, like I said, really set in whatever they said that they believed at the beginning. And no matter what changes, no matter what new information has come in, they don't change. And I don't really understand that. I get if you have like unequivocal, like you believe in this person so much, but ultimately, like it's kind of like in your real life, if you believe in somebody, but they start to show that they're not trustworthy or they lie or whatever they do to you, that they're not good to you, that no matter what you believe, obviously the actions of that person or the new information would change that. And that's why I don't understand why there are just some people in this fan base, negative or positive, that just keep spouting the same stuff over a 5-year period. It's been a very long period, 5 years, 6 years, whatever you want to call it, where we have a lot of information, a lot of new players, a lot of investment, a lot of, scenarios. So I don't know how your like opinion of somebody has not changed, where you've been negative since the beginning and you never once change your opinion, or you're positive the whole time and you never once even questioned. Like it feels unnatural to me. It feels unnatural to me. I don't really get it. I don't. I remember the chatter a couple years back about Saka going to Man City. Yeah, get fucked. I mean, literally, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Because I saw Liverpool fans saying after the game, like that we played against them, that they need to start talking to Saka because he's not signing a new contract. These conversations are going to come back up. I just hope the club understands that this is not the past. You cannot do it. You cannot sell the Sakas, or you really can't sell Saka, period. But if you did have to sell him, you can't sell him to City or Liverpool. You can't. My mom trolled me when she won the league with Van Persie. It was dark times. Nowadays, she doesn't even talk about Man U. Good. No offense to your mom, but good. Quiet. Honestly, Jess, Arteta is protected manager at this point. Arsenal fans are deluded. They want to be right. That's why. And that's the problem. It's they want to be right instead of like just looking at the information and then making just, based on the information, because I don't understand how we're not all on the same page. I really don't, genuinely. And maybe I'm just deluded or I'm just cooked, but I don't know how we're not all on the same page that like Arteta's done really well up into this point, rebuilding the club, and we've gotten to a really good point. But how would you, at this stage, will you not be questioning whether he's the guy or not? At least a little bit. Jess, when did you realize Wenger had to go? It came to me the moment Leicester won. Um, yeah, probably around like 2015, 2016, around that time, around the time that Leicester won for sure. I was like, this is the time. And I really wanted him to go so we could get Klopp. That was something that I feel like was a sliding doors like moment for us, is we never know when to do things. Like, have you noticed that Liverpool, the timing is always right for them? Every single time, like the timing was perfect for them to move Brendan Rodgers on and then go to Klopp. And then they just are dominant for like 10 years. And then they turn around and know the perfect time to get rid of Klopp and then bring in Slot. That is not by chance. That is because the people up top know how to make strong decisions, even when it's not like super obvious to the outside that this is the right decision to make. Arsenal are the opposite. They hold on too long, and then by the time they do it, there's way more damage to repair. You don't have this great core that you can utilize. It's like it's all broken, or like it's not right anymore. And we should have got rid of Wenger because Klopp was available. That's what we should have done. Because also, we should have never been in a situation where Wenger left under that kind of cloud. Arsene should have left as the hero. And I feel like some people view Wenger as some sort of arch nemesis because, like, the quote goes, sometimes you stay long enough to become a villain. You're so good, so good, so good, so good. and then you stay too long, and then your methods aren't working, things change, and then boom, now you're the villain. He should have gone like he should have gone like 5 years before he left, genuinely. And that's not because he's wasn't a good coach. It's just sometimes you just need change. And we missed out on a world-class manager that was available to go to a team like ours. If he would go to Liverpool where they were at that point, he would have went to us. Klopp would have came to us. And we missed out on that. And then by the time we got rid of Arsene, the people that were available were not of that same caliber. We make another mistake and bring on Unai Emery. That doesn't work. And then now we have Mikel. So yeah, but Arsene, I wish that he would have left in a different way so that it doesn't feel like I don't like the narrative around Arsene to be like he was anything other than an outstanding coach or manager. I don't know many other managers that would have been able to deal with what Arsenal were going through at that time. When he had the resources, he built squads or managed squads that could go toe to toe with Sir Alex Ferguson's Manchester United, and he took 3 Premier Leagues off of him. That is not easy. And then he went into a period of time where he had one hand strapped behind his back. And yes, I think he didn't change his methods at certain points. And I don't know if he lost the joy of it a little bit, beyond 2012, 2013. And then we got to 2015 and it got dark. At a period of time, it just felt like it wasn't the same, where he wasn't trying to reinvigorate things and do new stuff, So yeah, it's kind of long-winded answer, but I just wish he didn't have to leave in that way and not be around the club and stuff, because he was dealing in a different situation than Arteta is. If Arsene had ever gotten the amount of backing that Arteta did, it would have been a completely different story. I'm afraid we might be the Dortmund of the Premier League. Under Arteta, always the bridesmaid, but never the bride. Wenger lost David Dein and was never the same, which is another reason why I say he had a hand tied behind his back. Not having a good sporting director, not having the money available, to build squads that can go toe to toe with a new era of the Premier League, which was with Jose Mourinho and this Chelsea money balling and all this kind of stuff. It was just different, and so we just didn't move fast enough. And again, Arsenal are very reactive. I would say that historically we're very reactive. Post David Dein, we're reactive, so, and that reactive nature, it shows up multiple times across this last 20 something years. He also didn't want to deal with agents. With the way Arteta is talking, as if he has shares in Arsenal, he's here to stay for at least 4 more years. Things will potentially be so dark if he stays 2 more years. Yeah, well, that's the thing, is he needs to win something. And if he continues not to win stuff, then everything that you've built, you're going to derail it so badly that when the new person comes in, then you have to do another rebuild, where a smart club would probably look at the situation now and say, there's a cutoff here because we don't want what we've built so far to go to wane. But Arsenal will hold on longer for sure. I don't think Arteta is anywhere near leaving, by the way. I really don't. Wenger notoriously didn't want a sporting director. He should have been given a sporting director. 100%. And I think also in that period of time, he didn't want to deal with the sporting directors around, because a lot of the sporting directors like to deal with the super agents. And so again, things were changing, and you could have moved Arsene on before it got so dark if he was unable to adapt to what was going on in football. He could have left with his head held high, with his image in check, and it was still there, attached. The fact that people think Arsene was some crazy, batshit crazy, bad manager hurts me, because that's not what he was. I think all the pieces are there for a different manager. The man owns the building. Arsenal was more than the owners. Arsenal was more his than the owners even. The club has made changes at every level in the past 2 years. I don't think his job is that safe. Well, we'll see, but obviously, if you beat Port Vale 2-0 in the Carabao Cup, this is, you're not going now. So, we'll see what happens. But, Newcastle is a big game and we're going to expect to win it, or that's the result that we need to get. But like I said at the beginning of the show, if you're in do or die mode in September and this is like a game that means so much, and if you don't win it, then it's already lost at this stage. We should be chilling until like December, really, just stacking points and working through the kinks and that kind of stuff. So we'll see what happens, but tomorrow I'll be on Mo early, Judge Mo's show early, and then me and Diluted are going to do the back-to-back shows. So on Diluted's channel at 4 p.m. UK, and then on my channel at 5 p.m. UK. And then the next time you guys will see me is on Saturday when we recap the Premier League, like what happened in the day. And then on Sunday, it'll be the post-match. So make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel. I enjoyed this nonsense conversation that we had at the end because we didn't have anything to talk about. But I like talking to you guys. So I loved it. We will definitely talk soon. I'll see you guys tomorrow. And make sure you guys show up to Judge Mo's show. It's so early in the morning. Please don't leave me there by myself. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. And yes, KG will be back on the show. Of course, because they won. Make sure you guys are there. It's going to be funny. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.